So it's around 9:30 Eastern currently, which is around 1:30 UTC time. And the O1Z Storm Prediction Center outlook is out, and the main severe risks today across parts of southeast Pennsylvania, Delaware, up through New Jersey into northern Jersey and Long Island today is going to be with the surface low lifting northwards. So the main tornado potential still looks to be in the southern areas of this portion, as highlighted by the SPC. However, there's a risk for severe weather and tornadoes across all this area, including wind damage, tornadoes, but not much of a hail threat today. So if we look at the radar currently, there is a flood wash in effect for many of the regions I just discussed because heavy rain is expected even if there is no um, severe weather, because moisture content is very high, as we will see. And along with this, there will just be persistent rain bands with the surface low that develops. Currently, we can see the best theta E to the south of this region. Currently, we can see theta E of greater than 350 Kelvin is south of Jersey and Pennsylvania, but this will move northward with time. As we can see, it is moving northward as we increase in time. These surface low will start to form and lift northward. So what's the surface low that I'm talking about? So we look at the surface low analysis right now. That there is some form of a low over Jersey right now with a dry line extending, but that was at 21Z, which was about 5 p.m. So the surface low is going to start to form somewhere around here in Pennsylvania, southeastern Pennsylvania, and it's going to start to have a warm front with it that lifts northward. So we look in the forecast fronts. 06Z Tuesday, which is around 2 a.m. Tuesday Eastern time, we see that low pressure starts to form. The cold front and dry line aren't going to be of much concern. They won't really be firing storms. What's really going to be causing the storms is this warm front. So the heavy rain threat will exist all around that warm front. As you can see, it's going to be heavy rain all the way up and towards the Albany area. But the severe threat will exist at the warm front and to the south of the warm front, where sufficient surface-based instability can form and storms can become surface-based. So let's look at the reflectivity. So we can see there's that surface low forming over. Actually, the surface low could materialize anywhere from central Pennsylvania towards western Pennsylvania, apparently, it seems. That's still an area of confusion in the models. And we look, two areas of low pressure forming around 9Z. So let's back up a bit to OZ, to 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. currently. Some light rain is ongoing across Jersey. Heavier rain will be moving in across the night. It'll start to form along that warm front. And the main severe threat will be to the south of that warm front. So we can see currently the warm front's probably around here. Let's take a sounding for eastern Pennsylvania at, what is this, 12 a.m.? Yeah, so we have a very favorably curved photograph with good storm relative helicity, which is the area between these blue lines and this red line. There's a nice square type shape to the storm relative helicity profile, which generally means good rotation, good directional shear in the lower atmosphere. We can see that with our wind profile, wind bars. The surface to 1 kilometer shear is very favorable, 25 knots. But if we look at the surface-based instability, there is -70 around CIN. So this is going to be the real question mark here today. Wherever we can get that surface-based instability to materialize south of the warm front, if we can get storms that are surface-based, that's where the main tornado threat will exist. Gusty winds could and heavy rain will happen with all storms, but the tornado threat will only be with the surface-based storms because the surface capping will prevent tornadoes from occurring. And now let's move to the theta E, which will help us very well define that warm front. So 12 a.m. we still have, it's more of a diffuse front, but we can still see the southern areas, southern Jersey, southeast Pennsylvania, that's where the highest threat will be because that's where the warm front will definitely be to the north of those areas. And we can see at around 9Z, which would be 5 a.m., the very stark warm front sets up along this low pressure area that's forming over the Delaware River area. And basically the idea is to the south, if a storm does fire, which let's go back and look at 9Z if we can. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9Z, they should be moving out with the warm front, but if some storm can form from some forcing mechanism, you got to watch out for that. Because again, this is going to be at nighttime when most people are sleeping. So that's the special thing about this threat. So basically, with to the south of the warm front, 850 millibar winds or 1 kilometer winds should increase, as we can see here, south of the warm front, basically south and along the warm front. That is where the favorable winds are going to be. And let's look at the significant tornado parameter to verify where the shear and instability is located. And yeah, basically, the question mark is how far north does the warm front get in? If it gets towards North Jersey, towards Sussex County, northern Morris County, then it should also be passing Long Island, and there could be threat there in the early morning hours. But the HRRR, the 8 p.m. run is depicting it being in southern Somerset County. So if we look at the updraft listing to see which storms are rotating, anything along that warm front could have the potential to rotate because the environment will be good. But anything that will have strong rotation would have to be surface based. So if any storms can fire to the south of that warm front, or even just to the south, if a storm can get surface based, that's where the severe threat will be maximized. All right, so that is for today night. We look at tomorrow. There is a severe threat across the coastal regions of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. If we focus on the Northeast, this tornado threat will exist again near the warm front as that surface low moves through in the morning hours, potentially into the afternoon. Wind threat will exist with all storms, and the SPC is also highlighting some hail threat. So the main difference between those 2 days is that if we look at the afternoon setup, there's not going to be favorable directional shear during that time. If we look at Somerset Airport, the wind profiles, the photograph is much more straight than the other day. There is some surface veering. If some surface veering can set up, that will actually increase the tornado potential. But currently, that Storm Prediction Center is not highlighting any. So we can see clearly there's ample instability with not the best lapse rates, but still some decent lapse rates. Deep layer shear is good. That's probably why they're highlighting some risk for hail. And gusty winds would be possible with any of these storms. So let's look at how storms mature across the region. So storms look like they could potentially fire across these areas, especially Jersey. Tornado threat doesn't seem to be, again, as I was saying, doesn't seem to be much of an issue. But again, if we see any local strengthening of low-level winds, as you can see, the surface to 1 kilometer shear is only 13 knots. So two things to watch for tomorrow afternoon is first thing is going to be the surface winds, the direction. If they can get back towards a southerly direction, southeast, even east, and even potentially northeast, as this is showing, there could be a higher threat. And number two, if we get strengthening of low-level winds, that would also be potentially a threat. So actually, the 8 p.m. HRRR is showing potential organization of these storms into more of a cluster form as they move off the coast. But basically, after these storms should move through by maybe 9 or 10 p.m. It's not going to be like the threat today, and I mean not today, tomorrow in the early morning. And we look at the updraft list to see where the stronger storms were. Yeah, potentially there could be some stronger storms across the Jersey area, but the main threat is going to be southern, across Virginia, Mid-Atlantic, coastal Mid-Atlantic, potentially even the Delmarva. The HRRR is imposing some strong updraft listies there. But baseline is tomorrow very early in the morning, after maybe 12 a.m. into around 8 a.m. The risk will move from southeast to northwest, from extreme southeastern Pennsylvania towards Long Island. Any storms along the warm front or south of it that can become surface-based and acquire rotation could have tornado potential. Heavy rain and gusty winds will be possible with any of them. And tomorrow in the afternoon, the wind profiles will not be as favorable for a tornado, but we'll have to watch to see the trends if the surface, near surface winds could increase. And if the wind direction at the surface gets more backed, there could be more of a tornado potential. But tomorrow, gusty winds and hail will be possible with any storms in the afternoon.